Well, my body lies over the ocean. My body lies over the sea. Ooh, my body lies over the ocean. Oh, bring back my body to me.
Hello and welcome to the Scott Arizala Show, presented by camphacker.tv. My name is Travis Allison, and I'm super pleased to introduce you to Scott Arizala. Hi, Scott. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Travis. Thanks for co-hosting and being here. I'm excited about this next episode, actually this next series of episodes, because I want to talk really briefly and quickly about counseling skills, other counseling skills. We have hit so many along the way in the Scott Arizala Show, and there are just a ton more. And I just really wanted to talk really specifically about some unique ideas as far as what we're training our staff and how we're training them to be better at working with kids, counseling skills. So with that, I'm just going to jump right into it. The very first one that I wanted to talk about is perspective. I think we need to do a lot better job at teaching our young people how to get on the level of kids, understanding the kids' perspective. I mean, it's being able to sort of have empathy and see through their eyes and understand the approach on, whether it's social stuff or games or program or whatever, but understanding kids' perspective is huge. And in my opinion, what is underneath that are kind of a few essential skills, one of which is a lot of observation and awareness. We have to teach our staff to pay attention. We have to teach our staff to watch what's going on and be aware when some of that behavior shifts and changes, and to ask the sort of critical question and sometimes rhetorical question of why. Why are things changing? What's different about the group right now? What's different about the individual? I also think a really key piece to perspective is listening. Being able to really ask really good questions to kids, and then being able to listen really carefully to what it is that they're saying. And then finally, I guess the sort of, there's lots of different skills that I think go into perspective. But I would say another sort of foundation skills is literally being able to sort of get on their level, and that's both physically. We teach that a lot of times to young people working with kids, sort of bending down and getting physically on their level, but trying to see things from that sort of fresh perspective that kids see things. So introducing a new idea, introducing a new environment like camp is, and try to see things sort of through those eyes.
I love the idea of the physical part of getting perspective. And one of the lessons we did is not get to the kids level, but get to below the kids level, so you experience what it's like to be surrounded by towering adults all the time, and just to give them that new awareness of what it's like.
Yeah, and for those of you who have ever met Travis or myself in real life, you know that for some of us it's not that hard to get on the kids' levels, and for others of us, like our friend Travis, it may be a bit more challenging to get on their level or underneath their level. So thank you. Yes, I appreciate being able to teach young people that, and again, it's have that experience, and it gains perspective. Another counseling skill that I really want to sort of hone in on is just this idea of clear communication. And I know we've talked a lot in the Scott Arizala Show about listening and actually about expressing ourselves, about being really clear. And so one of the ideas that I wanted to sort of talk about here in this particular episode was clearly communicating our values, what's important about our camp. And I think that is something that us as professionals, as youth development professionals, we get better and better and better at. And as an industry, I feel like we're doing pretty good at being able to talk about what sets us apart, why are we different, not only as an industry, why is summer camp important versus other things in youth development, but then also on an individual level, like why is my camp different than maybe the camp down the street, and what do I have to offer, and so on and so forth. And it doesn't stop there, right? I mean, we're, at the end of the day, as the camp director or camp owner for my two camps, I'm not the one that actually does it. Right, like I'm the one that sells it to the parent. I'm the one that says to the parent, "Hey, send your kid to my camp because they're going to get a sense of inclusiveness. They're going to have access in a way they've never had access before. They're going to have a social experience that they've never really had before, so on and so forth." I sell it to the parent, but then who does it? right? The young people that I put in place, they're the one that actually fulfills that. And so when I'm talking about clear communication, I'm talking about what are those values and how do we put them into play. I think this comes down to like a big piece in staff training where you can say, you can even just take the ones that I just mentioned, right? Like accessibility to program, in-depth sort of social curriculum or social experience, you name it, whatever else values are important to you and your camp. And I would say give them to the staff and have them break them down. And I put my staff into small groups and I say, okay, you guys know the program, you know our schedule, you know how we operate, you've seen all the stuff that we have. Now take this idea like inclusiveness, or take this idea like access, or social awareness. So turn archery into social awareness. Turn going down to the blob or going on the water slide into inclusiveness or accessibility, and break it down. Now, what does it look like? What does it sound like? How are we talking to kids about it? How are we engaging kids about it? How are we communicating back to parents at the end of the week for myself, which is a resident camp, but for you day camps at the end of every day? How are we communicating back to parents about what it was that they experienced at camp? That's what I'm talking about when it comes to really clear communication.
And one of the things that I think you need to clearly communicate, Scott, is your next point. You need to clearly communicate expectations as a counselor. You need to have your kids understand that, and even with the other people that you're living in community with for the summer.
Absolutely. And expectations is such a big word. I mean, there's so many expectations that it can feel overwhelming to a young person who says, okay, well, I'm living with, 8-year-olds. How do I be clear about all the different expectations I have? I mean, they're going to kind of come up all the time. Absolutely, right? So you want to start sort of broad, you want to start big. What are the big expectations around behavior, around how we're living together for day camps, around how we're moving together throughout the day, what happens at the beginning of the day, what happens at the end of the day, all those sort of points, right? And you got to come up with some systems there. You've got to talk with each other about, each other meaning the other staff, about who does what, when, who's responsible for what, and getting your systems down. But then you can start breaking things down a little bit when it comes to expectations. I think, one good example is talking about either processes or procedures. How do we do certain things? And what we have to respect, and this kind of goes back a little bit to perspective, the first one we talked about, is that when kids come to camp, it's an entirely new environment. Even for returning kids, frankly, it's a new and different and kind of crazy sometimes experience, right? Like, they don't go anywhere else in their lives where they experience adults and facility and all this the kind of way they do at camp. And so we have to ultimately be ultra clear about what is the process for going into lunch. What is the process for brushing your teeth? I mean, you would expect that all the kids know, like, the mechanics of brushing their teeth. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, I don't know. Yeah. But the expectation is that they probably do. Yet, what they have never experienced is 8 kids trying to brush their teeth all at the same time at the one sink in your bathroom. Like, where do I even put my toothbrush, right? So we have to be clear about what are some of the processes, what are some of the procedures behind these things, and then we have to be really explicit about those and talk about those out loud, not only with our fellow staff members before the kids get there, but then of course with the kids when they're there.
So they know what the expectations are, Scott. Then is there another question that you want them to be asking themselves at the same time?
Yeah, a lot of what we've been talking about so far, perspective, communicating about our values and the things that we're doing, and then this idea of expectations. A lot of what's built underneath that, I talked about it in perspective, is this idea of awareness, right? Of being aware of what's going on, really being observant. And that's hard. It's really hard for young people. It's hard for everybody. It's hard for all adults. It's not as hard actually for kids. It's hard for all adults because adults, we spend our sort of mental energy, the mental time in sort of in the future or in the past, right? We sort of are anxious and planning for the future, and we're sort of reliving and reviewing the past. Rarely do we spend right now, and that's kind of where kids demand us to be, right? I mean, to be really observant is you've got to sort of put those things away and concentrate on what's happening kind of right in front of you right now. And so one of the questions and this is a great counseling technique that I teach everybody, one of the questions that I'm constantly putting into the brains of my staff and the staff that I train is this question of what am I looking for? It's a really practical question that gets right at behavior and choices right here in front of me right now. It forces me to be aware of what's happening with the 6 or 8 or 10 kids that are in front of me. What do I want to see happening? Because often we don't see behavior unless it's the sort of the squeaky wheel, right? We don't see behavior unless it's abnormal or out of the sort of mainstream of what we would expect, right? And so if we ask ourselves the sort of opposite of that question, or of what we typically see, which is, what do I want to see, or what am I really looking for, we start to see things in a different way. We're really observant when we see kids all sharing the limited resources at arts and crafts, or being really inclusive, walking together as a group and all joking around about the same thing, as opposed to just the 5 joking around and the 2, not really joking around. Or we see kids letting other kids go first, or whatever. I mean, we start seeing those things. So as a counseling technique, one thing that I say all the time is, ask yourself the question in every moment you're spending with kids, what am I really looking for right now? Is just such a crucial question.
Those are really great counseling skills, Scott, and we're going to come back to this topic on another day and deal with some more ideas, another 4 ideas that you have on that. So I thank you for that. I want to also thank all of you for watching. If you really liked Scott's idea about clear communication or ways to set expectations, then please give us a thumbs up on the video. If you're a new person just watching this video for the first time, please click subscribe. It's really helpful to us to be able to get the videos out to you when they come out from our end. My name is Travis Allison from camphacker.tv. It's been a privilege to be here. I'll hand it over to Scott to say goodbye.
Thank you so much, Travis. Thanks everybody for watching. My name is Scott Arizala. If you want to check out more about what I do, you can check out my website at thecampcounselor.com. I also have a brand new subscription service. It's a staff training resource on my website called the Camp Counselor Insider, where you actually can get the MP3s of the first season of the Scott Arizala Show. Check that out at thecampcounselor.com/insider. And again, we really appreciate everybody tuning in and watching, and we'll see y'all next summer.
Well, my